Welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. Subscribe for more episodes and follow our social media at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. Today I'm delighted to welcome Irish senior women's hockey player Naomi Carroll. Naomi has also played intercounty football and camogie for her native County Clare. We had a great chat about her sporting career, overcoming her ACL injury and the GPA's Jim Madden leadership programme. I hope you enjoy. Hi Naomi, thanks a million for coming on.
No bother at all, thanks for having me.
So what I like to do is I usually give the guests about 20 or 30 seconds to just give a bit of background on themselves in their sporting and professional life.
So I'm from Cratloe. I'd have originally started playing with the boys when I was younger. I'd have started with my best friend Maura McGrath. She's the reason I'm playing really. And then from that I'd gone on and started playing a bit of camogie and football. And it was from that then that I got into hockey with my club, Catholic Institute. So I've been playing there since I was about 13. And playing with the banner then would be my football club in Ennis and Six Mile Bridge would be camogie. So I've been playing the three sports for the last number of years, but at the minute I'm concentrating on the hockey. I'm on the squad for the moment that are preparing for the Olympics in Tokyo next year. There's a squad of 33 of us and that's to be cut to 16. So a long way to go yet, but it's good to be part of it.
Very good. And the second thing I like to do is what's called the Sideline 7. So it's kind of a fire round / thought-provoking set of questions. So you can take your time with it or you can go really quickly. It's up to yourself. So the first question would be, what is your favourite quote?
My favourite quote is, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, that's a good one, all right. Yeah, it's one of the favourites of mine as well. What would be the best sporting event you've been to? That can be either in Ireland or abroad or one of each, depending on how many you've been
to. Best sporting event, All-Ireland Final 2013.
Was that the men's? Yeah, that was a good match.
Yeah.
And biggest setback or challenge you've had so far in your career?
Tearing my cruciate in 2018.
And we're going to get to that in a minute now at the end of the podcast. And what is your biggest achievement on or off the pitch? Or pitches in your circumstances?
Biggest achievement probably, I suppose, being from Clare wouldn't be a big hockey county. To have represented Ireland 100 times in hockey or over 100 times would be probably my biggest achievement.
And then kind of reflecting back on everything, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
To back myself, or to anyone who's at that age, back yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So, and if you want to try something, give it a go and challenge yourself every day.
And then in terms of a dream dinner guest, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Roger Federer, because he's incredibly ambitious, he's incredibly successful, but he's also had a lot of setbacks, so it shows that he can keep going even when he has these, how resilient he is.
The last question would be, if your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
This chapter would be called Commitment. So committing to, I suppose, the Irish hockey team and to every part of the training, like recovery and nutrition, training properly and kind of focusing on all aspects of it. And
then kind of going back to your background, you spoke about how you began in sport. Did your parents play? Did your siblings play? Or was it just your friend? You said, I'm just going to give this a go with her.
Yeah, actually, no, my parents wouldn't have been sporty, nor would my brother and sister. And since actually my brother is now a marathon runner and he's quite good at it, so it's funny. Yeah, he had no interest at all. No, so it would have been the McGraths and Cratloe, Joe and Eilidh McGrath. They'd be very well known in the GAA world. Would have started bringing me to training down with the boys. And that would have been the reason I'd have started. And then my mom, Margaret, would have been incredibly good to go to the matches. I'd say at the start, she was like this poor creator now, doesn't even know what way to play, but I'll go and I'll clap. So that would have been the reason I'd have started. But since then now, my mum would be very involved. She loves, especially the hockey, she'd be involved herself in Catholic Institute.
Okay. And then growing up, you played a multitude of sports. What was your favourite, or were they all just, I love them all equally, or was it just, I'm doing this to keep fit in the winter or anything like that?
Camogie would have been my number one. I obviously played hurling with the boys and loved that. And then I went and started playing with Napiershig with the girls as well. I was able to play kind of both at the same time. And I just found that there's so many different skills in camogie that you can always be improving at some aspect of it. And as a forward, you can be learning to shoot from different angles and working on your defensive side as well. So I really always loved camogie. Now, I loved the other sports as well, but camogie would have been my number one growing up.
And obviously with camogie and hockey, was there much crossover? Like when the skills of camogie, did that help a lot with hockey, or was it maybe a detriment with the different kind of hand positioning on the stick and stuff?
Yeah, it helped me a lot because I'm left-handed as it is. So with hockey, you have to put your left hand on top, and because I'm left-handed, that's how I play camogie. So definitely crossover. And in terms of 3D, so getting the ball in the air in hockey would have come a little bit more naturally just because of the camogie.
Yeah, okay, I didn't realise that. And then you played a bit of soccer growing up, is that right?
Yeah, I played with Lifford in Ennis.
And then you remember, I don't know if this is right or not, but were you a member of the Ireland under-17 soccer team? Is that correct?
Yeah, just for a small period, and I played with the under-15s as well, so with the under-15 school team at the time.
So you were playing soccer, hockey, camogie and Gaelic football all at the same time?
Yeah, I was very busy for a while.
Oh my God.
I was gone every night of the week.
I was going to say, I'd say you didn't have a night off to yourself. And then you played a bit of camogie. You've played camogie and Gaelic football at the intercounty level, and you played both at the same time. How did you sort of balance this? Like, there's always a debate of the dual player coming up. Was it hard to balance it? Was there a lot of communication, with both squads saying, I'm here tonight, or what was that kind of balance like?
Yeah, I think communication in that regard is so important, because as a player you want to keep everybody happy, and if you haven't communicated in advance, you think I need to train 12 times a week and I can run from camogie training to football training, but you're actually just putting yourself in risk of injury. So to have spoken to your coaches and to make sure that there's a relationship between the two intercounty coaches themselves, that they understand they're not actual machines. Like, these are the days they're going to go to camogie, these are the days that they're going to go to football. And I think that those relationships now appear to be even better than they would have been in the past. And it wasn't that it wasn't there, it was just that the understanding wasn't actually there about player loading and about, I suppose, just keeping people fresh and making sure that they go into matches as ready as they can be without being overloaded and without being at risk of getting injured.
And in terms of then your schedule and trying to keep that load, what would your training schedule be like? Would there be something on every day? Would you get a rest day? How did you sort of manage that?
At the minute, or when I was younger?
When you were playing the dual sports? Yeah,
so I'd have always had one night off a week that I could have done whatever I wanted. But other than that, you'd have pretty much 6 days of going. Some of the trainings mightn't have been as high intensity as others, but I suppose because of that relationship with the coaches and the understanding that was there, I always knew coming into a game that I felt fresh. And then obviously there is weeks when you're more tired than others, but that can be because of work or because of other things as well. But it's just making sure that you can get that balance. And one thing that I always do now, I wouldn't have done it when I was younger, but on a Sunday, I'd write out my whole week. So everything I know that I'm going to be doing, whether that's meetings, training, recovery. And I make sure that if on a Wednesday I'm going to do an hour of mobility or an hour of yoga, I just make sure I get that in because it's something that I planned in the week. So I think that's kind of helping me to stay fresh as well.
And is that something that you still do at the moment? That sort of
it's something. So with the Jim Madden leadership program, and I know you'd mentioned that, with that I have a life skills coach, and it's one thing that she discussed even at the start of lockdown, that you go from being so busy to actually having to be in a house all day for weeks, months, that she said make sure at your week plan the whole thing out like you'd normally do when you're really busy. So it's something that has always helped me, and it continues to do so.
That's a brilliant tip for anyone, not even in sport, I think just in general, just to balance. Obviously a lot of people working from home, you can't really escape nearly because you're on your laptop, maybe in your kitchen, and then you have to go try switch off at 5 o'clock, which is probably so hard to do. So that tip about scheduling could be applicable to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it as well. I'm like I said earlier, I try to please everybody. If someone asks me to do something, I'd always try and say yes. And if I don't have it written down, I could end up saying yes to 4 things at the same time on the same day. And then you have awkward conversations where you try and fix that and you've already committed to something.
Yeah.
So by planning it, I can at least say, oh no, I'm actually busy at this time, but I'm free later in the day, or I'm free a different day. So even with that, it's saved a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then when you weren't playing football and camogie and soccer, were you involved in the underage Irish hockey teams?
When I was about 14, or 15 maybe, I went, there was a development day in Catholic Institute. So in the day, it was just, you played a bit of soccer, you did a small bit of running, you did some handball, you did jumping, and then you played a bit of hockey. And from that, it was talent ID. So they picked out a couple of players, and from that, they sent those players to Munster under-16s trials. And I'd have been lucky enough to have been selected. And from there, then I was involved in every underage Munster and Irish squad. So it was because of that talent ID, really. But I suppose because I didn't have a huge background in hockey, the fact that I had the GAA background would have really stood to me.
Okay, yeah. And then, so you would have played up then all of the squads. What would be your best moment of your underage career?
I remember we played against England in Cork. I think it was an under-18 competition, and it would have been my first time beating England, and it was in Cork, which is obviously in Munster, whereas most of the big games would be in Dublin. So it was pretty class to have kind of as close to home as you can get when you're talking about water bases in Munster. So that was a really special occasion.
Brilliant. And I'm sure everyone from Clare had the banners out and everything.
Exactly, yeah. They were like, we'll make that trip anyway.
Brilliant. And then you made your senior debut in 2012, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. So we played in the under-21 tournament. It was in Portugal, and the Irish coach at the time had come over and watched, and he picked a number of us from that tournament and gave us a chance of training, and then from that selected a couple of us to get our debuts, our first cap a couple of weeks after.
So you weren't too long waiting for your debut. It was just a couple of weeks training, and then you were kind of given the chance.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky that way. It's just the timing that fell, that it was only maybe 2 weeks of training, then I was lucky enough to get my first cap.
Brilliant. Were you thrown in the deep end, or were you prepared for it?
I don't know how prepared you can be. I was probably running around like a headless chicken, but it was good to play.
Yeah, brilliant. And what was that moment like, going out in the pitch for your first senior cap? Obviously all the work you put in, underage, all the squads, what was that moment like for you?
Oh no, it was brilliant. And with my club, like Catholic Institute, they've always been incredibly good to me. And even like during my career, at one stage I had to play in Dublin, because at the time when you were playing on a national team, you had to be playing in the EYHL, which would be the top tournament. Oh, okay. And I played for a season with Hermes in Dublin, and we were really successful that season. We actually won the National League, which was brilliant. It was class. Okay. But then, and I played with Cork Harlequins as well. But now I'm back with Catholic Institute, and it's like my home team, but they'd have supported me all the way along. Like, there's always been that kind of good camaraderie between us.
Brilliant, yeah. And that was probably obviously a big moment for them, one of their own. As you said, there's maybe not that much hockey or in Clare, and to get that senior debut, I'd say was massive for them.
Yeah, and with our club as well, we'd had the likes of Emer Cregan, who'd have been captain of Ireland, so I'd have always looked up to her, and Elaine Brommel. So there was those people that you always kind of wanted to emulate and be like, at the same time.
Yeah. And then 2018, you got your 100th senior cap for Ireland against Spain. What was that moment like? Obviously 100 caps, it doesn't come along that often for players. What was that moment like for you?
I was thrilled. Yeah, it was class to get it, but then during the match I nearly broke my jaw.
Oh, okay.
And we lost, so great to get the 100 caps, but I genuinely nearly broke my jaw to get an X-ray and everything. But I've obviously made it tough stuff from Clare, I'm not sure, but no, getting 100 caps was brilliant. And as I said, there's not a huge amount of people from Clare who are playing hockey. The numbers have risen in the last number of years, which is great. But I suppose for myself personally and for my family, it would have been pretty special, because starting off, it would have been something that I'd have seen very far down the line and very much achievable with a huge amount of hard work. So it was pretty cool.
So it was memorable not only for the 100 caps, but for a lot of other reasons as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And then later that year, it was the dream summer for Irish hockey, and you were named as a non-travelling reserve. What is that? Sorry, I don't know a lot about hockey, so I feel terrible.
Yeah, so it's different. So, do you know when you're in the GA, if you've your match day squad of your 24 who can talk and can play, and then you have, we'll say, the 6 or 7 who are still kind of part of the squad but aren't going to play on the same day, who are picked, and then you've named your 2 reserves, depending on where the tournament is on. So we'll say for the likes of New Zealand, they brought their reserves with them, but because the tournament is only in London, we weren't over until the semi-final.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of bittersweet. Like, you're a small bit a part of it, but at the same time, you're just outside the 18. So
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you arrived, then what was your role? Are you participating in training? Are you just waiting for someone in case someone gets injured? What is the role of a reserve when you've got over with the team?
Yeah, it's just if there's an injury that you get called in.
Okay, yeah.
How it works. And it would be like that for most tournaments. Then we'll say with the Olympics, there'd be 16 players picked and you'd have 2 reserves. So the 16, if one of the 16 get injured during the tournament, one of the reserves can come in and play. But other than that, they don't play at all.
Okay. So then during the World Cup, what was sort of the best moment for you off the pitch? Was it celebrating afterwards? Was it, watching the girls get their medals? What was that moment? What was your favourite moment?
My favourite moment would have been the homecoming in Dublin. I think there was about 5,000 supporters there. So it would have been the biggest turnout I'd have ever seen for anything I was involved in. So it was class. Like, it was just unbelievable. And nobody would have even expected that amount of people to have shown up.
Yeah. And in terms of then your own club, did you get to kind of have a big celebration down there as well? Or did they come up to Dublin? What was that? What was the kind of celebrations like there?
Yeah, so Roisin Upton, one of the girls on the team, she's from Catholic Institute as well, and there was a big night. They had a big night, but on the same day I was supposed to have surgery for my ACL.
Oh, right.
So I had to be in Dublin ready to go for surgery, and my surgery got cancelled, so I ended up missing the night and missing surgery on the day. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Bad timing. And we're going to get to your injury in a second, and just kind of looking to 2018 and to now, how has the perception and the support for Irish hockey changed, or has it changed?
It definitely has changed when there's something big on, and I think people were brilliant to support, and everybody in the summer of 2018, everybody was talking about hockey, but a little bit less maybe in 2019 when the club matches would have started back. The numbers that potentially could have been there probably weren't coming out to support, and obviously it's completely different now. People can't go to support at the minute. But it's when those opportunities are there, you would like to see the numbers starting to filter through a small bit more. In terms of people playing, there is a big start. There's more people, there's more kids starting to play, which is brilliant, and it's just so important that we keep them playing and keep encouraging them. And then obviously for the qualifier last year, the numbers would have upped again, and the amount who were watching it and supporting it would have risen again. But it's just important to try and keep that kind of consistent.
And keep the momentum going, and maybe try to transition it down to the club level, not just the senior ladies.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, just before we get to your injury, what is your sort of pre-game routine? Are you listening to music? What sort of music? How far out do you eat? And, what would be your sort of go-to meal before a match?
I normally eat about 3 hours before. It depends. If it's an early match, I'd have something like eggs and toast, maybe jam. And then if it's a later match, normally like a sandwich or a wrap or something. I try to eat kind of light 3 hours before, like my big meal, but it wouldn't be a huge pasta meal. I just don't personally like that. And then if I need to top up, I might have half a banana or something smaller, a little bit of yogurt. And then in terms of routines before, I always wear a white headband when I'm playing.
I heard about this famous headband.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. I make sure I have that in my bag. And listening to music kind of varies. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the day. But the main things are trying to eat 3 hours before and my headband.
Very good. And then you tore your ACL in 2018. When was it? Like, you were playing football, was it?
Yeah, I was playing football. We were in the All-Ireland Intermediate quarter final against Meath, and I had actually come on. So I was only back playing football a couple of weeks.
Oh, God.
And I got the ball on the right-hand side of the pitch and went to sidestep someone, and I just knew my knee popped out and popped back in.
Oh,
And I
God.
knew it didn't feel right. I heard 2 pops.
Yeah.
And then the physio came on, got back up. Physio kind of looked at it, did the test, thought it was fine, and then I tried to play on. It went for me again. But it wasn't until about 2 weeks later that I actually had my MRI to figure out what it was, because the physios and doctors who looked at it, because my legs would be strong-ish
Mm.
from hockey and from playing
From
sport.
from all the training you're doing.
Exactly, yeah. Everything around it was compensating for it. So I was passing all the ACL tests, kind of not a bother.
Mm.
And then it was, I went to my a different physio then, and he looked at it and he said, I can't look inside your knee, so the only way we can be 100% certain is getting an MRI. So that's actually really good advice that he gave to me. If somebody is having a niggle, or there's something with your knee or a part or your ankle or a part of your body that you can't be 100% sure what it is, get an MRI, because even if it's perfect, at least you know yourself it's perfect, and you're not kind of carrying with you, is there something that there could be there or there isn't. So when I got the result of that anyway, it was completely ruptured.
Okay, right. And then in terms of, hearing that diagnosis, what was the original thought, and sort of what was the recovery time that was kind of given to you? Was it a full year? Was it 9 months, I think is a common time?
Yeah, so it was 2 years. So it was in school, and we were only back. So we're just back now in school as well. But we were back. It was the first day back, and we had a meeting, or the second day. And I remember finding out after school, and there was an issue getting the. So obviously, it's your doctor who has to read the results and send them to you. So there was an issue between getting the results to my doctor. So I remember being like, "Come on!" Obviously, they have far more patients than one.
Yeah.
And then I got a call after school, and I went into one of the classrooms. I was so upset because I was thinking everything is possibly that could go wrong, was going wrong.
Yeah.
And one of the teachers came into me, and he actually did his a couple of years previous, and he was so good, and he knew straight away before even asking. He knew what I just heard, and he talked to me straight through it, and like told me, there's more positives to come from this. Like, it is negative, but like it's how you perceive it, and it's how you go about it. So even from just talking to him straight away, I realized, come on, get yourself together, you're fine,
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
exactly. Yeah,
Any worse things happening.
that's brilliant that you had someone to sort of help you along. And I know you spoke to Podge Collins as well, a dual star with Clare. What advice did he give you in terms of his own recovery and his own sort of injury process?
Yeah, he was brilliant. So as I said, the day I was supposed to have surgery, it actually got cancelled. So again, I was like, the thing has gone wrong. This is brilliant. So I got back home, and I was the next day. I texted him and I told him, and he said, "Look, come up to Cratloe Gym, and I'll go through a few of the prehab drills with me." So or prehab exercises, and he was exceptionally good. He showed me loads of exercises, and he talked about all the positives of having this time to do this prehab work, and how it was going to benefit me on the other side, because I was all mopey and saying another thing has gone wrong. I think I won't I won't bother. I'll take a break for myself.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, get started today. Today is day one of your recovery." So
Brilliant.
speaking to him was brilliant, and even the fact that he was able to give me those exercises, and I knew that he had been through the same thing himself. So when you have someone you can trust in, it's great. And he's from Cratloe as well, which was nice.
And then obviously, you have to keep your thoughts positive, and to get through the recovery and get back playing. Did you ever have any doubts that you wouldn't maybe not play again, but play to the level that you want and you can play at?
I actually didn't. And I think the reason that I didn't was I didn't put that in my mind until very close to the end. So as soon as I had surgery, my main aim was to try and get my leg straight, to try and put my socks on again. Like, I kept breaking it down into really small goals. And I knew if I could keep achieving these really small goals each week, that eventually I'd get to my bigger goal. And I kept thinking, if I do these really small goals really well, I'll be actually better. I might be fitter, I might be faster, rather than telling myself, because I suppose a lot of what you tell yourself is how you will react to something, and the more negative thoughts that are in your mind, the more negatively that you'll kind of perceive something or see it, that the outcome will be.
And then you started up a blog, and you had those little goals in the blog, because I was reading it a good while ago, and I loved, it was like what I did this week, what I'm going to do next week. What kind of prompted you to start the blog? Was it to keep that motivation going, to keep those goals ticking over, or was it for keeping others motivated?
Yeah, well, I started it because I was so used to being accountable to people. I played, as you mentioned earlier, I played a few sports and I was always in a couple of teams, and I'd be accountable to be at training and to train hard, and nobody was going to see what this work that when you're injured, people do forget. Like at the start, everyone's brilliant and they're exceptionally good and they'd be talking, yourself. But then people do forget because they have their own lives.
Yeah.
And I had to think to myself, if I start to forget, then I'm not going to get better or get as do as much during this time as I possibly can. So I thought, if I keep myself accountable by actually posting this online, whether it's just myself who reads it or myself and my mom, it doesn't actually matter. She'd always give it a good read. Yeah. It didn't actually matter to me. It was just the fact that I was accountable to myself, and each week then I'd kind of set myself the goals. Like sometimes a lot of them would come from physio, but then some smaller things might come from myself. And it was just, okay, can I get to that in the week? And can I also, like, it gives you a chance as well to start doing things outside of sport. And I was thinking, if I could link these in with my blog, like I got to go to India with a charity, which was incredible. It's something you don't get to do all the time, obviously. But then what I've noticed recently is, because I have that, and when you're injured, you can think of everything at the time. But if you asked me now, like when you were 12 weeks into your injury, how did you feel? Like I wouldn't know. But when I look back, I can see, Naomi, at 12 weeks, this is how you were. Like now you're 2 years post being injured. Like take every day or take every training session, train properly, because you don't know when you're going to get injured or what's going to happen. And you can't think like that. You just have to kind of enjoy the process, enjoy everything you're doing.
And then you mentioned before that you were asked to join back with the Clare Camogie and ladies football squads when you were injured. How did this sort of help your recovery? Was it a lot of that accountability stuff again? Was it something to go to? I know I have a big injury myself, and I was lost at the beginning because I was so used to, I'm training 2-3 days a week. Now I've nothing to do in the evening. I'll just, I don't know, watch a bit of Netflix or something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I was the same. I was thinking, oh, I'm useless to everyone. This is just really sad. Yeah. And the Clare Camogie coach, Ger O'Connell, rang me. And I remember when he rang me and I was like, look, Ger, like, I think you're ringing the wrong person here. Like, I'm incredibly useless to you. I haven't even had surgery at this point. He said, no, there's more important things than being on the pitch. Like, you'll have a really good influence in the background, and we'll get you doing things as the season goes on. And I think it was about a week after surgery that I went to the first training session, and from then on I didn't miss a huge amount of trainings in the whole year, a huge amount of matches. I don't even know if I missed any, but it was just that accountability to be there. But it was different from the training accountability, because coming to training is fine, but you actually have to push yourself in that session. So that was just getting me, making sure that I was meeting people in the week and doing anything that I could while I was there to help. As I mentioned, probably wasn't much. But I was there anyway. But it was great, because each week, like I said, when you're planning it, if I had nothing to put in other than work, it would have been a very long year. Whereas when you have these days, might be 2 days, it might be 3 days, it's keeping you ticking over, and it's keeping you doing something, and it's keeping up meeting your friends and seeing people on a regular basis.
And I'm sure it was, I would find, let's say if I had a teammate, that had a big injury, seeing them come down to all the training sessions, all the matches, that would make me accountable. Said, geez, Naomi's coming down to training, I need to be pushing myself, because she would give anything, to be in my position for even just a session. Like, I'm sure you would have given anything to just do a 30-minute training session about halfway through.
Yeah, dead right. And the other thing we obviously had a rehab group, and Claire Kaman again was brilliant. She kind of nearly took charge of my recovery, we'll say, on the side of the pitch. And any sessions that she could make, she'd take me and she'd do an hour of a session. But a rehab group, obviously during the season, there's niggles and people will come in. And as I told them, they'd graduate from the rehab group, I'd welcome them in and tell them off. But even when they're coming in, I was like, get yourself right properly, and then you can go play. Like, I was like, I'm going to be here for way longer, so make the most of the training sessions that you can have. So it was nice. And then eventually when I could start joining training, even if it was just at the start doing the warm-up or doing something really small. I was like, I will warm up the best that you will see a warm-up being done, because you're injured for so long, that's all you want to do. You just want to be with everyone and do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's I find it like, I remember I still struggle. I've been watching a good few matches now, and it's like torture, because you just, in your mind that you're able to be out there in terms of like mentally and maybe tactically, but like physically you're just not there, and it's taxing. Like, it's awful to be watching from the sideline, and for such a long time as well. Like, your recovery was 9 months to a year. Like, that's so long to be on the sideline, watching people train and play.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, it was 9 months around 9 months until post-surgery when I was playing. So it is. And like, if you think about that at the start, it's nearly too daunting, because you're thinking, how am I going to get to then? But just because, as I said, like writing down those little goals every week, the week started going, it went from 1 to 7 to 15, and I was like, the longer it goes, the closer I'm getting back to playing. And then once I could start jogging, I thought, Jeannie, I'm nearly there now, even though you're on my off. You're not nearly there. You're getting there. Your steps are small, and then when you can start turning, you think, now I'm starting to replicate what I do in a match. And the most interesting, I think, about even doing that, like 2 years ago, is people are still contacting me now who'd have been in a similar situation, and who'd find, I don't know, is it helpful or is it unhelpful? But some people, like, I remember at the time, about 6 weeks after I started it, someone contacted me and said, oh, like, I read your blog. And I was like, oh, that's lovely, thanks. And then they said, I only need to crutches for 2 days, and sure, I needed them for 2 weeks, and I fully needed them for 2 weeks. I was like, oh yeah, class, I'm glad I make you feel better. Even if I was doing that in one other verse, and I'd happy out.
No, it was brilliant. And I didn't tear my ACL, but I found it helpful, to see someone document, not only the ups but the downs. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, and I had a day where I didn't leave my bed, and like, that was the worst day. But then the next day I got downstairs, and that was huge. And in terms of, you were saying, you got jogging, you nearly take, after a couple of days, you're buzzing because you can jog again. But then you're like, okay, when can I start sprinting? When can I start going left and right?
Yeah, I fully agree with you in that, because you're looking forward to running for so long, and then you do it, and you do it a couple of times, and then you think, okay, this is easy, I need to go further. Whereas you need to listen to your physio or whoever is guiding you in that. You need to be doing this for a certain amount of time, because I was the same. I remember when I got out of Santry after was it 5 month or 6 month checkup, or the first, I can't remember which checkup it was, but he told me, you can start jogging now. And I remember even in the car park, I started jogging to the car, and if you've seen me, you'd have thought, oh my, she doesn't look like she should be jogging. But it was just the start of it. I was like, this is me now, I'm nearly back.
That's
it's what you tell yourself, like.
That's hilarious. That's brilliant. And then kind of in terms of, looking back, you kind of said to, the other girls, saying to the other girls, savor your training, because you don't know, you can't take it for granted, because you could just have an injury anytime, anywhere. What would you tell yourself, maybe a couple of years before you did your ACL? Is it just savor the moment, don't take your ability for granted?
Yeah, it definitely would be. And I think there's a time in any season when you get really busy and the training, it's slog, and you have to keep going, and you're thinking, oh, I've training tonight at this time, and you're nearly not looking forward to it. Whereas now, I'm not saying I look forward to every single training session, because I don't. Like, there's not everyone, but I say 90% of them I do, and I try to take something good out of it. And even small things like I wouldn't have done before, but like at the end of each day, I try and either just say to someone 3 things I'm grateful for in the day, and it's small, but it kind of keeps you ticking over. And just missing a year of sport, or however many months, 9-10 months, and standing on the sidelines and going to still putting in the driving that others were doing, and standing and still putting in the hours, but in a completely different way. It just made me to realize how much I enjoy it when I'm doing it, and like warm up properly, train properly. And if you're supposed to be training hard, train hard. If you're supposed to be doing tactics, make sure you understand what's going on, like all sides of it. I think it has made me appreciate it more.
And then maybe in terms of as well, when you've had a big injury, or when you're conscious of injuries, you're not going out when you shouldn't be. You know, when you're not supposed to be sprinting, you don't sprint. You kind of, you know, to yourself, right, it's actually not worth 10 minutes of sprinting, and I could set myself back 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I remember at the 7 months, once I passed 7 months, I felt so good. I was able to do all training. And I remember saying to Clare at the time, I said, I'm ready to go back. And she said, Naomi, you are ready physically, but each week after, I think, is it 7 months that you leave it, it reduces your chance 50% each time of redoing it. She said, if you go back now, you're going to have it in your head. And she kept giving me, like, she was like, I have more tasks and I have more things for you to do before I think you're really ready to go. Even though, like you said, you feel like you're ready yourself and you want to go back in, but why risk it for the sake of waiting 4 or 5 weeks till you're fully ready to go, then going out? And even if you have it in your head, you have a higher risk of doing something if you're nervous about it. Whereas when you get that clearance, like I remember the day in Santry when I went up for my 9-month testing and I got the clearance to actually play. When you have that confidence in your head, it means that you can go out and have no doubt in your mind at all.
And then in terms of returning to play and that confidence, did it take you a while to get it back? Or, you know, when you got that clearance from Sanctuary, was it, okay, grand, I'm going guns blazing 100%?
Oh, in my head, it was 100% that I'm ready. And I thought, yeah, I've passed this test now, I'm ready to go. But I remember at a Camogie session, we were doing all the skills and all that was fine, and touch and everything, because I've been doing that for weeks and months anyway myself. But then we went into a match. One of my really good friends from 6 Mile Bridge, Chloe Murray, we were playing just a match, but you had to stay in your zone. And anytime the ball came in, I'd kind of turn like a bus instead of just turning normally in practicing.
Yeah.
And I was really jittery about myself, and I just wasn't myself at all. And we came over and we got water or something, and she just came over to me and said, "Are you all right?" And I was like, yeah, like, yeah, I'm fine. But like, I couldn't have been more unfine ever.
Yeah.
And then I just said to her, I said, Chloe, I just don't know if I can turn properly. So she just said, look, go back in. You're 100% fine. You've got this clearance. Like, go and train like you normally would. And even from her saying that to me, I just went back in and I was able to play properly. But it was the thoughts in my head thinking, this is your first time being in contact. What if someone shoulders you? What if someone pushes you? What if you fall yourself? Like, all of this going around in my head, as opposed to just thinking, just play.
Yeah. And then in terms of, you know, having the sort of injury concern, do you ever worry about doing it again? I know as females, we are more likely to do it than men. And I think when you do your ACL, you are at quite a risk of doing it, you know, tearing it again. Is that something you kind of worry about, or you just kind of say, look, I'm just going to go hell for leather and what happens happens?
No, I'm actually not worried about it at all. But what I am doing, and I ideally would love to have been playing football, camogie, everything at the minute because of lockdown and the hockey, will say, being delayed. But after speaking with the management, and because of obviously being injured in the past and other reasons, I was told that I couldn't play. And because I was told that, I think that if I went and played something, all I think in my head is, you've been injured before, you're going from playing on different types of surfaces, and I'd hate to be doing something that I had a doubt in myself about. Whereas when I'm going out playing hockey, because I know that I'm something that I can focus on and that I'm 100% fine to do, and I've done all the training on Astro, then I just back myself 100% and I know it's fine. I know I warm up properly like I should do, and then I'll be fine.
Yeah. And then in terms of the WGPA and the Jim Madden program, you spoke about it before briefly. What is the program, to kind of give a brief sort of background and explanation to it?
Yeah, so the Jim Madden Leadership Program, it's a program offered to intercounty players and also to ex-intercounty players. And in it, you do development centres. So in a development centre, you do like a one-to-one interview, you do a one-to-one role play, you do a presentation, and you do an online task. So it shows you your areas that you're really strong in and your areas to focus on. And then you also get a life skills coach who you have 4 or 5 meetings with during the year. So it just helps if there's something you want to plan out, or if there's anything you're worried about, you can talk to your life skills coach about this. So it's brilliant. We have webinars kind of every couple of months, and in them we hear from different people. Like we heard from the likes of Fergal O'Rourke, who's the CEO of PWE, and last week you hear from different hurlers, footballers, camogie players. It's just brilliant to hear different people's points of view and different people's experience that they've had. So it's fantastic.
And how long is the program? Is it over a year, number of years? How long is the sort of till you get your graduation? I think there is a graduation involved.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it runs for 12 months. And
Okay.
in it, normally, obviously this year with COVID-19, there's been more online than there normally would be. So normally you'd have more on-site days. So we'll still have a couple of hopefully face-to-face on-site days coming towards the end of it. But in fairness to our instructors, they've kept the course running over the last number of months.
Brilliant. Yeah. It obviously gives you something to do as well in terms of, you know, there hasn't been a lot of sport on, there hasn't been training to go to. It kind of keeps your mind possibly taken over.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really, really interesting. And every week the content is different. And even this week we're looking at conflict. And, you know, it's something that you mightn't be used to seeing every single day, but it shows you how to deal with different types of conflict that you see and different types of management and leadership skills and styles. So it's brilliant. I've really enjoyed it.
It sounds fantastic. And what would be sort of the biggest things you've learned from it, or sort of the biggest takeaways for you in terms of anything, leadership, you know, life, sport? What would be sort of the biggest takeaways?
Yeah, so from the talk that we had the other day, it would be just being completely upfront with people. So I know myself, I shy away from confrontation. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
And I'd be great to say, no, that's fine. And then, you know, as I mentioned earlier, commit to something that I can't do. So we've learned a lot about if there's something that you're not comfortable with doing, or if that you have to have a hard conversation, that you just need to make sure you have the right skills to go about it, but that you do make sure to stop it at the source rather than letting something fester on for weeks and weeks. Would be something that I really have picked up on it in the last few days.
That's fantastic. And then just as we finish up, kind of looking back on your career so far, what would be your best moment on the pitch? Or if you can't narrow it down, we'll do a top 3 sort of moments.
For Camogie, I think winning the Munster senior final, I think it was in 2012 we won it with Clare, which would have been the first time, I'm not sure in how long, but my first time definitely ever winning that and beating Cork, which was class. For hockey, obviously being involved thereabouts with the World Cup was just an incredible experience, the whole lot of it. And I suppose to see the hype that was there for it and everything, that was unbelievable. And also winning the EYHL with hockey as well, because you're winning the best league in Ireland, so that would have been class. Oh, and with football, winning the Munster final. We won the Munster final with my club, the Banner, a couple of years ago. I can't remember what year.
Yeah.
But it would have been the Munster A final, which would have been savage to win.
And then in terms of off the pitch, what would be the best moment? You know, was it that homecoming in 2018?
Off the pitch moment, yeah, it would be the homecoming from 2018, because it was just like years of hard work and showing how much hockey has built up in Ireland and the support that's there for it, and just seeing everybody out there in front of us was class.
Fantastic. And hopefully all going well, make the squad, and we'll hopefully have a big homecoming again next year after the Olympics. Fingers
Hopefully, thanks for that.
And then in terms of looking back again, we're doing a lot of reflection in this podcast. What is the biggest thing you've learned from your sporting career?
The biggest thing I've learned, I think probably the biggest thing I've learned is resiliency. So to show it in every side of your life. So if something doesn't go right in work, to bounce back. In sport, bounce back. Like, keep fighting, don't give up, and back yourself.
And then my final question would be, in terms of all of the sports and all of the teams you've played on, what would be your advice to players maybe in a similar situation on time management and sort of balancing multiple sports? What would your advice be to sort of those types of people that are balancing 2, you know, elite level sports at the same time?
Well, I think first of all, if it's something that you really love doing, then in any way that it possibly can, continue to do it. Make sure that you speak to both managements and try to take yourself out of it. Like, if the management speak together, then it saves conversations for you every week. And it means that you can just go and do what you enjoy doing and playing. And you don't have to get stressed or bogged down about missing a training session. It's all planned. And as I said, I just try to plan everything from the start of the week on a Sunday, know what I'm doing Monday to the next Sunday. And then it leads to far less stress than trying to just fit everything that you possibly can in.
So it's definitely that scheduling on the Sunday night write everything down, make sure you're not double booked, and kind of give yourself those recovery days properly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really important as well, and I find, just to make time either for your friends or for your family or for your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever it is, that you don't have to have it scheduled, but that there is either a free block for them and you're not trying to squeeze them in between work and training, that you do have some quality time that you can spend with them, or if it's your animals, like my dog Charlie, just whatever it is, that you do have time for yourself as well, because at the end of the day you do need that downtime.
That's absolutely fantastic advice, and look, thanks a million for coming on. I really appreciate it. Definitely check out Naomi's blog, Naomi ACL Recovery.blogspot.com, I think is the right one, and your Instagram, Naomi Carroll 13 as well. So Naomi, thanks a million for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks a million, Orla, and sure, I'll be talking to you soon again. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thanks a million. A big thank you to Naomi for coming on today. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you did enjoy the episode, make sure to leave a rating and a review, as it does help the podcast to grow. If you are looking at setting up your own podcast, be sure to get in touch with the Primal Productions team over on Instagram @PrimalPro. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.